Welcome back to the program, everyone. Let's get to have that conversation this hour. We are joined by Richard Ahonaruogo. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria. He joins us live on the program. Inibege Effiong is also going to join us very shortly on the show as well. He's caught up in traffic. But senior advocates, we have to begin this conversation with the story that has refused to go, the PFIPC scandal. The latest is that the chief of staff to the president, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, has honored the invitation by the ICPC. In the papers, of course, as well, just a moment ago, we were just discussing this, and the fact that the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation have disowned Ademi. But there's a question around transparency in all of this. What do you say?
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for inviting me. I believe that the scandal is something that Nigerians are interested in getting to the bottom. And I believe the government has done well by taking the initiative of inviting persons to come and explain their roles in respect of what is happening relating to the office that is said not to have existed. What we have heard so far shows that a lot more needs to be done, and I believe that the ICPC will live up to its billing.
I'm not sure. This sounds really very optimistic from you, SN, about the ICPC. But how about the fact that maybe perhaps Nigerians would have loved to see how this hearing or investigations is ongoing? I mean, what is obtainable in other parts of the world? Would it have been possible for Nigerians to perhaps see how Mr. Gbajabiamila, interacted with the ICPC officials?
I believe that that is not possible. The ICP setting is not a public setting. When investigations are going on, they don't invite members of the public. It's like the police. When the police suspect somebody has done something, they invite the person to his office, and the person makes a statement, and if they believe that it's something that is, a confession, they look at what they ought to do, put it on recording, get the person's lawyer to be present when the person is making the statement, and then afterwards, they look at the papers and see whether they have a prima facie case to prosecute. At the stage of investigation, it's not a matter of the public coming in to hear the details of what any person is saying, be it the accused or the person that is saying, I was given an office, and the people that say, no, we don't know you. At this stage, whatever they are saying still remains confidential to the ICPC to the extent that they do not wish to jeopardize the investigation. I believe it is proper that they should carry out a proper and thorough investigation. And that's what Nigerians expect from them.
Senior advocate, so let's look at what is fact. Because this case, on one hand, is being investigated by the ICPC. There's a hearing in the House of Representatives. There's a court proceeding going on. So there's a lot of public interest. So the fact available is that this man had an office. This man started the process of opening an account. There were discrepancies in reporting from the presidency to the accountant general's office. One is saying he had an account, the other one is saying it wasn't complete, and everybody's trying to pass the buck. Even the office space now, people are shifting grounds. I think the head of service, according to what we read, saying that that place is actually allocated to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So everybody's trying to run away from one responsibility or the other. So from your point of view as a lawyer, no matter what happens, which offices must have some level of accountability, or somebody fired, somebody suspended? So I'm talking here from the office of the Attorney General, not Attorney General, my mistake, Chief of Staff, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Accountant General, Central Bank, the Presidency itself, and even the National Assembly.
You have mentioned every organ that is interested in this matter and every organ that ought to be interested in this matter. It is yet to be seen what level of participation they will be seen to have played in the establishment or non-establishment of the said office. I think it would be presumptuous that we should think that it's the role. Let us get the report. If the report comes out and Nigerians are not satisfied, Nigerians will cry out. This is not the first time that we're having such inquiries. Let us get the report. I believe that most of the offices that you have mentioned are crippled by very reasonable persons, and I believe that they will do the best to give Nigerians the truth and nothing but the truth. At the end of the day, we'll see what is happening. And the journalists like you have been giving us information. We have been reading the report from the head of service, from the CBN, and these are just snippets of what is happening. So when they collate everything together, we'll be able to read between the lines and see whether a thorough job has been done. But for now, I think we have to be patient.
Without presuming, yes, senior advocate, without
a step, because Nigerians are anxious to knowing the truth.
Yes, senior advocate, without presuming, because I don't want to go to the court part, I'm focused on the ICPC. Since it's not a subject under adjudication, that's why we have the leverage to talk about it. My direct question, because it has a budgetary allocation, whether it was earmarked or funds were released, it's a different kettle of fish. But it found its way to our national budget, not in the ministry, in the presidency. That's serious. So would it be fair if at the end of this man is the only one that goes down for what has happened?
I don't think it will be fair, and I don't think he will be the only one. And I don't even think, it is not necessary for us to presume. But it will not be fair if it's the only one, because the National Assembly is there. There are checks and balances. There are ways in which budgets are prepared, sent to the National Assembly, scrutinized by committees, hearings are heard, appropriations are made, the president, it is passed in the House of Representatives and the Senate, then it is harmonized, and the figure is arrived at and is taken to the presidency. The presidency has its own review mechanism to see that, yes, these items are the items that, but people don't let us presume. I do not want to say people do make mistakes, or it may be deliberate falsehood, or it may be a deliberate crime. So for now, it is best to just presume that the ICPC and other organs of government entitled to look into this matter will look into this matter and give us honest reports in respect of it. Thank you.
And we hope that we're able to reconcile the reports of the outcome of the investigation by the House of Representatives and that of the ICPC, such that, every detail checks out and the right people that ought to be brought to book are brought to justice. But so many matters, at the front burner of national politics get our attention this morning. And I'd like you to speak to what we see to be the anti-corruption war resulting in trends in assets forfeiture. So either it's the former Attorney General of the Federation, or businesswoman Aisha Chimugu, or the former CBN governor, were hearing reports of assets forfeiture to the tune of billions of naira. Some, in fact, dollars in cash have been forfeited, final forfeiture declared. And at the House of Representatives yesterday, a certain honorable is raising a motion for the documenting by location, by value of assets that have been forfeited since 1999. And many Nigerians are asking, assets are being forfeited, but where is the money going to? What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. Before I answer this question, let me just say that it is commendable that the House of Representatives is taking on this issue of the PFIPC, because that is a more open investigation. More members of the public are entitled to view and listen to the committees sitting, and I believe that will also checkmate, any underhand games that may be coming up in respect of this matter, because the House of Representatives is open to the public, at least open to members and those that are invited to the place, including the press. So I believe that we'll get a good report. In respect of officials, because I believe that I advocate criminal justice advocacy and I'm involved in some of these matters, it may not be very fair for me to speak on forfeitures and what is happening in that realm, because I practice actively in the realms of criminal justice advocacy.
Well, senior advocates, these issues are really, really very interesting and critical for many Nigerians. And it would have been interesting to see just how...
because I have one or two personal matters involving some of these forfeitures, so it might not be in my own interest or in the interest of my clients to make public comments on it. But I believe that so far, what the courts have been doing is commendable. Thank you.
All right. Maybe let's touch on this craze for building houses for judges. I'm not sure particularly why it has become such a common practice now, but like Jeff mentioned earlier, Nyesom Wike is one of those who have had to start. He began this whole idea, and now the Akwa Ibom State governor, the Imo State governor as well. But my question to you would be, why exactly is the executive arm of government patronizing the judiciary?
I believe that building houses for judges is wrong. I believe it has no place in the Constitution. I believe that the judiciary is independent, and this government has come out clearly to state that the judiciary will have their budgetary allocations released on the first line charge, which means that money that appropriated to the judiciary, both at the state or federal level, should be given to them. So if these things are important to the judiciary, it should be itemized in their budget. And if it's passed by either the National Assembly or the various houses of assembly, then those monies haven't been properly appropriated, should be released on the first line charge for these houses and other things that are required for the comfort of judicial officers to be provided, not by the executive, but by the judiciary as provided for in the budget, which is the law.
Yeah, Senior Advocate, well said. Let us see, we'll come back to you in just a moment. Second guest, Nibe Effiong just joined us, your colleague. Nibe, welcome to the program. We've touched on a couple of things because we wanted to binge through some of the things that Nigerians have been commenting on, which we're now at the issue of this new love for building judges' houses. I have the privilege of entering some of these houses when I was in Port Harcourt, and I'm telling you for a fact, it's a dream home. You literally have to just come with your clothes, literally, because everything is there. So I covered it properly in Rivers State, both for the Court of Appeal, President of the Court of Appeal there in Rivers, I think the Court of Appeal there, and then the judges, some of those judges in Rivers State, Naguma quarters also. So I understand firsthand the quality of these houses. And these guys are human beings. So people are uncomfortable. But they said there's nothing wrong with it. What do you make of this building houses for judges? The Leonard Sake has given his own. He said he doesn't agree with it. But what's your thought?
I believe the challenge that some people have is the procedure. You cannot have an independent and efficient judiciary if you do not provide the logistics, the resources, and the appropriate incentive that will enable judges to discharge their constitutional responsibilities without being encumbered by the things that they need to function properly. There is a consensus, at least within the legal profession, the majority of members of the legal profession, that the judiciary over the years have not been well catered for. There are judges in Nigeria today who are paying judicial assistance from their own pockets. There are judges in Nigeria today that are dealing with very serious issues relating to welfare. As a matter of fact, it is even worse at the magistracy. You mentioned Akwa Ibom. For a number of years, magistrates who were appointed in my state were taking Okada and tricycle to court. And this is the situation in many states of the Federation. So what we have seen is that the executive arm of government are basically weaponizing the welfare of judges. They have realized that they have not taken responsibility to ensure that within the permissible constitutional framework, that what is due to the judiciary is afforded to it. Because if you look at the provisions of the Constitution, Section 146, Section 162, Section 121, and other relevant sections relating to distributable pool accounts under the Constitution, any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary ought to be paid to the relevant organs of the judiciary, namely, supposed to go to the National Judicial Council, for example. But what we see is that the governors choose, and the executive arm of government directly choose to make it look like they are doing judges a favor. Have you wondered, why is it that when governors purchase vehicles for commissioners, they don't make news out of it? Have Nigerians asked those questions? Why is it that when heads of parastatals of the executive are given vehicles, we do not see ceremony, we do not see the press being invited? Oh, come and see, oh, the governor is sharing vehicles to commissioners today. Why is it only with judges? Why is it that when it comes to the issue of accommodation for judicial officers, it becomes a sensational matter? The blame lies squarely at the foot of the executive arm of government. What they are doing, quite certainly, is to characterize judges as if judicial officers are at their mercy. That is not supposed to be the case. These are provisions, these are facilities that members of the judiciary are entitled to as a matter of right. But what they are doing is to make it seem as if they are doing them a favor. And in that process, they hope, for some of them, maybe to be seen to be in the good book of the judiciary. But I want to insist that we must address the issue of welfare of judges.
But Mr. Effiong, Leonard Silk, Mr. Femi Falana had raised the matter of equity amid this love for building quarters, accommodation for the judiciary. His point was that why doesn't the executive also, construct same for professors, the academia, who are also a very important part of the system? And doesn't it also bother on independence of the judiciary? With this trend by state governors and even the executive, can we guarantee an independent judiciary? Don't forget that the executive at the federal level had addressed the matter of remuneration for members of the judiciary not long after he came into office.
I mean, as I have made the point, that there are legitimate concerns regarding procedure. The point of the Leonard Senior Advocate is understood. What I am saying is that when you appoint a judex, when a judge, or a magistrate, or a justice of the appellate court is appointed, what is taking place is that you are reposing in the judicial officer the sacred responsibility of administering justice without fear or favor. I am making the point that for that responsibility to be discharged efficiently, the facilities for the efficiency of that responsibility have to be provided. It is about procedure for some of us. So, if you look at, for example, a high court judge in a state, a high court judge who is required to function, or a federal judge, whether at the federal or state level, that is required to function, does not have a decent accommodation, place to live, may not even have the right vehicle to use to go to work, or does not have the needed assistance to assist in research. What do you think, what do you expect to happen? It is not an excuse for corruption. I am saying that you cannot have an independent judiciary when you do not provide the resources that judges require. However, the executive arm of government have made it a pedestrian issue by going about it in a manner suggestive that maybe we are doing the judges a favor. I am saying that is not supposed to be the case.
All right. All right. Let's bring in Senior Advocate of Nigeria again, Mr. Richard, who is live for us in the U.S. And thank you indeed, because the time difference is really much, but you have to stay awake to join us on the program. So I'm not sure what is obtainable in the U.S., SAN. My direct question again to you would be, because you do not support that idea, if you were a beneficiary of one of these quarters, would you accept it or decline? And perhaps my last question would be, what happens to those quarters when the judges are retired?
Exactly, because that is the point. You cannot be building quarters and personalize them. I believe that judicial officers have their terms of engagement, and when they retire, they're supposed to retire according to their engagement. So we must look at the terms of engagement of the judicial officers. Are they entitled to personal houses upon retirement? And if so, is it the houses that are being built for them, even by the judiciary themselves? Let's forget the executive arm, What my position is that the judiciary needs to be properly catered for. The budget for the judiciary should be such that it will be sufficient for them to carry out their duties in terms of emoluments and welfare, etc., etc. And it's important to note, sir, if I may say so with respect, that it was when I was secretary of the bar of the NBA Keja between 1996 to 1998 that we did a report on the welfare of judges in Lagos State. And then the Chief Justice Priscilla Kuye now became the person that advised Governor Tinubu at that time to implement that report. And that was where the welfare of judges began, because that was where we started giving different packages, apart from the emoluments for robes, etc., etc. So the president is back in power again. He had a better opportunity for them to see that the welfare of judges are properly catered for, but they must go through the judicial arm. It should not be an executive largesse for the judiciary. The judiciary should come up with what they need, put it in the budget, get the National Assembly to pass it, and then implement it for their welfare. I do not believe that if the houses are meant for them after retirement, it should be meant for them. But if it's not part of their emolument, then of course they cannot have it as part of their retirement period. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I do not know what happens in the United States because I don't practice here. Thank you.
but it's not necessarily if he was going to accept or not.
Well, let us say, let's because of time, I'll just be sharing the time. However, I know that because you're asking about what happens, I know that when Nyesom Wike was building in River State, the term was, from what I covered and understood, was only judges will live in that quarters. So, for instance, if a judge retires, says, and the judge passes on, the children can't inherit that property. They will give you the value, the financial value of that, because they just want judges to live there. I don't know whether that has changed, but to the best of my knowledge, this is a fantastic building, by the way, by every stretch of it, because I covered it. But let's talk about something else before we wrap up the conversation, and that has to do with, I know you didn't comment on assets forfeiture because you were not here, so you talk about that. But in addition to that, it's about a year to the end of this 10th National Assembly. Yes. I want your overview of this, they call it the Akpabio Senate. Some have criticized him they said Lawan was a rubber stamp. Akpabio has doubled down to double rubber stamp. They have pushed back that they can't be fighting with the executive, that they are just doing their job. What do you make of it before I come to Leonard?
Akpabio never had an aspiration to be in the 10th Senate. He wanted to be the president of Nigeria. He fell in his aspiration to get the ticket of the APC at the convention. He surreptitiously found his way to the National Assembly. That is why he has been governing surreptitiously. It is garbage in, garbage out. This is a man, and you know, for some of us, it's a bit personal. He was my governor for 8 years. So you will expect that the information I have about him, the things I know about his modus operandi, may be a bit deeper than Nigerians who have not experienced Akpabio. What do you expect? This is a man that has zero tolerance for dissent as governor. So when you have a National Assembly that will embarrassingly and shamelessly change the national anthem of a country without a national conversation, national anthem without a national debate, you don't do that. That was an act of legislative abomination. That you will have 109 senators, you have 360 members of the House of Reps, arrogate to themselves the power to alter one of the most significant symbols of our country without a debate, without an opportunity for input from those who are supposed, they are asking me now and you to sing a national anthem, recite the national anthem, that we did not participate in reintroduction. You look at a Senate that consistently approves almost every nominee of the president without interrogation. A Senate that has abdicated the very sacred responsibility of parliamentary oversight. A Senate that since Akpabio became the president, we have not seen one, I challenge you, one outstanding parliamentary inquiry that has resulted in the indictment of members of the executive arm of government, either for corruption or ineptitude. This has been a Senate of cover-ups. A Senate that has become notorious for approval of questionable loans without question. A Senate that approved the state of emergency in Rivers State. Till date, that same National Assembly has not had the decency to inquire into how the funds that the so-called sole administrator spent while in office. This is the worst in my lifetime. And it is not surprising to us Because the whole idea of the Miloko, that you have people wear the Tinubu cap, stand on the floor of the National Assembly, raise their hand shamelessly, seeking on your mandate we shall stand. What was their mandate? It was supposed to be a legislative mandate. It was supposed to be a mandate to make laws for the good of the country. A mandate to investigate infractions in the country. But what have they arrogated to themselves? They have told Nigerians, we are not here to serve your interests. We are here to save Asiwaju. We will save Asiwaju from the beginning to the end. And that explains why at every point, this National Assembly has been very shameless. Look at what has happened with the so-called fake agency, Presidential Council.
That would be a strong word for the institution.
No, do you know what they said? They said, no, we cannot investigate it. We do not.
But the House of Reps is investigating.
I'm talking, why is the Senate not investigating? Do you believe something will come out of what is going on in the House of Reps? We know what some of these inquiries are about. Look, there may be a few decent people, there are a few decent people in the National Assembly. But to the extent of the issue of leadership, to the extent that even their own budget, you, as you are talking to me now in the media, Channels TV cannot show me the budget of the National Assembly today. What do you expect?
I'll find it.
Please, find it and show it to Nigeria. I am making the point.
There's a provision
I am making the point.
Breakdown, I'll find it.
That the solution to our national crisis, the crisis of leadership, is not spiritual. These are human beings who have resolved. I call them, you know what I call them? You know what I call them?
Please don't say anything that will put us in trouble.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm saying these are people, fatalistic political class. They have resolved that would rather die than allow the country move forward. Right. If we are going to change the current direction of our country, we need to really look at the character of people in the National Assembly. But for Nigerians who are expecting magic from Akpabio, I'm sorry to break your heart, it's not going to happen. They will only get worse and worse and worse by the day.
Yeah. Well, you didn't speak to the assets forfeiture. I don't know, maybe.
Quickly, how come?
So that we can get to
the lesson. That it is possible to live in a country where they are telling us that a former chief law officer of Nigeria was able to acquire how many? Almost 30 or 40 houses?
50.
They got about,
how many houses can Malami sleep in the night?
They got 40.
Let's not talk about the forfeiture. How was it possible for him to acquire these assets? And that is why I must commend the EFCC chairman on that point, to the extent that they were able to search those assets, recover them. But the Nigerian people must ask a question. How was it possible? How is it tenable in a country that people cannot feed? In a country that people are sleeping under the bridge? That one person is able to acquire this kind of property.
All right.
It is simply insane what is going on in our country.
All right. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Richard, please, I want you to just weigh in on this very quickly as we round off on the conversation this morning. The 10th National Assembly, led by Godswill Akpabio, is, right here on the spotlight this morning. But he's just one man out of 109.
No, I think the National Assembly is more than the Senate. The National Assembly is the Senate and the House of Representatives. So although my learned friend is entitled to his view, and his view are particularly in respect of the Senate President, I do not share those views with him. I believe, by and large, the National Assembly has done fairly well. They have made some laws that are very good for the country, and they are making other laws that, if implemented, will be very good for the country, especially the Police Act, which is being amended to allow for state police. I was in a committee with Chief Williams, who was chairman of that committee. OCG Okosha is alive. He was a member of that committee. And I think it was set up by Chief Wole Oladipeku as president. And we took a memorandum to Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. One of the things in that position paper was that of state police and true federalism. And I believe that National Assembly, the steps that are taken, will see to some of these points that have been agitating Nigerians for a long time. We can look at the little matters and the areas where people disagree with them. But by and large, the National Assembly has been stable, and there's been no crisis in the National Assembly. I think that is good for Nigeria. The less crisis we have in the National Assembly, the better for us. The oversight functions, yes, they can do it better, and we hope that they will get better with it. Thank you.
We're totally out of time, so let's be clear that the comments you made are exclusively yours, so that you don't put us...
I like the for the point he has made.
So that,
but the Police Act was passed in 2020. The current National Assembly is seeking to establish state police. What is the national conversation that is going on? Channels TV should fact-check me. There is no organ today in Nigeria at the state level that is functioning. Not the State Independent Electoral Commission, not local government.
Hold on, what you say
I am saying there is no constitutional organ at the state level that the governors have allowed to function.
Okay, that's a better way to
Not
put it.
state, not the state INEC, not local governments. There is none. Not even state houses of assembly.
But some states could argue that, you know, some local governments are functioning.
Where?
Like Lagos.
Where?
Like Lagos, they will say their locations get to them. And
Yeah.
I am saying, well, you want to cite Lagos, we have to look at the facts. I am telling you today that governors have become constitutional vandals. When you want to give governors state police, Nigerians should be wary. Nigerians should be wary. Some of us may not be able to go back home. My governor today is targeting everybody that is speaking against him.
That's another allegation.
I am saying to you that this state police, we must put the necessary safeguards in place so that they don't become state militia. Let us not dismiss this issue.
Yeah, there are these concerns. So, however, so let's put it out. You've made a lot of allegations, even against the National Assembly. I'm sure maybe you invite Senator Daramodu, the spokesperson, and their spokesperson to come and respond as well. So we're clear on.
No, but there are facts that can be verified.
No, it's okay.
We absolutely here. I understand that SCN is also itching to respond to this, but we have to anchor at this point. We are
maybe give the learners 30 seconds. I don't know.
Let's say, well. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Maybe in 20 seconds or less.
I spoke about the state police. It's a position that has been canvassed several years ago when Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was the president, led by Chief Williams. We went to Aso Rock and presented a redrafted constitution, which, as a draft, which included the state police. I'm not just talking of Tinubu or Buhari. No, I'm saying as far back as 1999. The NBA position is that we need the state police. When we get to it, Nigerians must work towards it. Thank you.
Thank you indeed for your time and your insights on the program. Richard Ahonaruogo is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He has joined us live from the US. And here in the studios, we've had a constitutional lawyer and human rights activist, Inibege Effiong. Thank you indeed, gentlemen, for your time on the program.
Thank you.
Well, this is the morning brief. Let's take a moment now. We'll be back. We'll get to continue somehow with the legal sector in Nigeria here, but to something else. It has to do with the NBA elections. We're back in just a moment. Please stay with us.